why do you slate? Well, in the old days, you had a separate camera and a separate sound recorder, so it really helped in syncing. Well, a lot of people nowadays are shooting with DSLRs, so you use a separate sound recorder. So the sound of the little clap helps in syncing. The other reason is for record keeping, because those numbers tell the editor this shot belongs to this scene. So scene 1, take 1, that shot belongs to scene 1 or scene 20, etc. How much do slates cost? This slate costs around 40 or 50 bucks. You can find slates for $20 to $50. There's also a smaller slate called an insert slate that doesn't have the clapper, and those are $8 to $10. The big thing is never use a Sharpie on your slate. It will put a permanent mark on it and ruin it. What is the proper way to slate? A lot of people, the first time they go out, they really just hammer it down there. You don't need to hit it that hard. Just let gravity go, boom, because the mic is right off frame. What's the proper time to slate? Well, usually on the set, the procedure is the sound operator rolls. He says he has speed. Then the person will read the slate. This is scene 1, take 1. Camera operator will roll and say speed. And then you say marker and then slap it. And the reason you do that, say marker, is because in syncing, it really helps the editor. He goes, the next sound he's going to hear is the sound of the slate being slapped. The other thing you're going to need to know is where to put the slate. If it's a big close-up of somebody, you'll just probably put it right in front of their face. But if it's a big wide shot, you'll want to take the slate in closer to the camera so the editor can later read the numbers and help them in editing. If it's way back here, the guy in the edit room won't be able to read those numbers and can't sync. Talk to the camera operator about the placement on that. What do you write on the slate? Well, the first thing you want to do is put the title of the production. That way, if the footage, your tape gets lost, your footage gets misplaced, they'll see that and go, oh, that belongs to that production. Then, who the camera op is, who the director is, the date, and is it day, night, is it MOS? Let's talk about the numbering of the slate. You'll want to put the roll number, which is really the tape number, the scene number, and the take number. Your first slate is going to be something like scene 1, take 1. Or if you're starting on scene 20 of your movie, it'll be scene 20, take 1. And as you go through the scene, you're going to add a letter to that. It's going to be 1 apple, then 1 baker, 1 Charlie, and you'll work your way through the alphabet. If you run out of letters, i.e. you get to Z, then you go back to A and you say 1 apple apple, 1 apple baker, so on and so forth. There are certain letters you don't want to use, and it'll be pretty obvious once I show you these examples. You don't want to use the letter I because it'll turn scene 1 into scene 11. Don't use the letter O because suddenly it turns scene 1 into scene 10. Don't use S because it looks like a 5 and it'll turn scene 1 into a scene 15. It just makes things confusing. So just skip those letters in the alphabet. Let's talk about MOS slating. Sometimes you're not going to use the clapper. You're just using the slate for the numbers, and that's when you're shooting without sound. You use an MOS slate when you're not rolling sound because sometimes you want to speed through a scene and you say, we don't need sound for this, we'll just add it later. So how do you do that? Well, you just hold the slate up and then hold the clappers together so they can't be clapped. Another way to do that is just put your hand in there, and that shows the editor that this is not a sound scene, so they don't have that fine sound to sync with it. Another thing that may happen is you may have to do a slate at the end of the shot, called a tail slate, because it's physically impossible to get the slate person at the head of the shot. So you're going to have to tail slate. So that what you do is you go in at the end of the take and say, this is scene 1, take 1. Hold it upside down, say marker, clap it. That says that this slate belongs to the previous footage. And also occasionally when you're shooting shots without sound, you'll forget, oh, I forgot to slate it. Just hold up a slate upside down, and that'll tell the editor this slate belongs to the previous shot. So that kind of wraps up talking about slating. My big pet peeve is if you're running slate on the set, have it ready to go. Don't make everybody stand around while you're frantically writing numbers and letters on a slate.